Perhaps you've heard of Elizabeth I, the Virgin Queen, the woman who led England into its golden age, who defeated the Spanish Armada and turned a divided nation into a legend. But behind the portraits of jewels and power lies another story, a quieter, darker truth. The story of a child who watched her mother die, who learned that love could kill and that survival demanded silence. She built an empire with her mind and guarded it with her heart at the cost of her soul. Was she a savior guided by destiny, or a ruler consumed by fear? Was her greatness born of wisdom or loneliness? Tonight, we step behind the crown to uncover the shadowed face of glory, the untold side of England's greatest queen. This is Elizabeth I, the hidden side of the queen. More contributions or more faults?
Elizabeth was born into fire and from fire. She learned to rule. Elizabeth Tudor entered the world in 1533. The daughter of Henry VIII and Anne Boleyn, a woman whose ambition had reshaped England's faith and shattered its stability. To the court, Elizabeth's very existence was a scandal. A child born from a marriage condemned by Rome. A living reminder of her mother's fall. In her blood ran both the brilliance of power and the curse of betrayal, what many at court whispered as the tainted line. When Anne Boleyn was executed on charges of adultery and treason, Elizabeth was not yet 3 years old. From that moment, the little girl who once played in the gardens of Greenwich Palace became a ghost in her own family, declared illegitimate, stripped of her title. She was sent away to live under watchful eyes. Yet even as a child, she observed everything. She watched how smiles hid daggers, how silence could be safer than truth. Historian David Starkey once wrote, "Elizabeth learned to survive not by speaking, but by listening." It was a lesson she would carry all her life. Her father's court was a theater of masks, wives replaced like chess pieces, nobles executed overnight, alliances shifting with every whisper of power. Amid that chaos, Elizabeth developed what she later called the art of waiting. She knew that in a world of men, impatience killed faster than the sword. Behind her calm gaze, every glance, every phrase was measured. To live was to calculate. By the time her half-sister Mary ascended the throne, Elizabeth was already a figure of both fascination and danger. To Catholics, she was a heretic. To Protestants, a symbol of hope. Mary's reign burned with vengeance, more than 280 people executed for their faith, earning her the name Bloody Mary. Elizabeth, confined to the Tower of London for suspicion of treason, spent those months certain she would follow her mother to the scaffold. Fear taught her prudence, wrote historian John Guy. Every breath she took in the tower made her a colder, more deliberate woman. When she finally walked free, she left behind the innocence of youth and stepped into a life ruled by caution. When Mary died in 1558, England was a nation fractured by religion and exhaustion. The treasury was nearly empty. Enemies circled from every side, and the people feared that another monarch would once again drag them into civil war. At 25, Elizabeth inherited not a kingdom, but a crisis. Yet she understood something her predecessors did not. That stability required illusion. In her first speech to Parliament, she declared, "There is only one Jesus Christ, and all the rest is a dispute over trifles." It was her way of saying faith was no longer a weapon. It would become a veil for unity. From her first days on the throne, Elizabeth practiced a new kind of leadership, not through decrees or armies, but through patience and perception. She surrounded herself with brilliant minds like William Cecil and Francis Walsingham, and though they often disagreed, she listened. She never decided too early, never revealed her full mind. "I do not make haste to believe," she once said. "Time will bring me the truth." Her courtiers learned that her silence was never ignorance, it was power. Foreign ambassadors found her impossible to read. She flirted, she teased, she delayed every proposal of marriage or alliance until it suited her cause. Spain's King Philip II, France's Henry of Valois, even her own advisor, Robert Dudley, all were caught in the dance of her diplomacy. She plays her suitors as a harp, one ambassador complained, and makes the tune of England's fortune. Her refusal to marry was not weakness, but strategy, so long as she remained single. She was both the bride and the prize of Europe, courted but never conquered. Then came the storm of 1588, the Spanish Armada. It was the test of everything Elizabeth had built: her navy, her nation, her image. Spain sent 130 ships to crush England and restore Catholic rule. As her soldiers prepared to face the enemy, Elizabeth rode to Tilbury in armor, addressing them with words that burned into legend. "I know I have the body of a weak and feeble woman, but I have the heart and stomach of a king, and of a king of England, too." That moment transformed her from monarch to myth. Against overwhelming odds, the English fleet triumphed. Storms scattered the Armada. Victory was declared an act of divine favor. Bells rang across London. Poets sang her glory, and portraits depicted her as a goddess, hand on the globe, eyes toward eternity. It was the birth of an icon, Elizabeth the Invincible, Elizabeth the Virgin Queen, chosen by God to defend her people. But triumph always casts a shadow. With every victory, her circle of trust grew smaller. She could no longer be just a woman. She was now an idea, a symbol too sacred to touch. Suitors were dismissed, friendships strained, and those who once walked beside her began to fear her silence. The same mask that shielded her from betrayal now kept her from affection. Robert Dudley, her lifelong confidant, and perhaps her only love, died without ever knowing whether she truly cared. The Queen's tears were hidden, her grief concealed behind royal ceremony. After the Armada, Elizabeth's power reached its zenith, but so did her isolation. The court that once adored her youth now whispered of her vanity, her temper, her endless control. Ministers aged and died. Poets turned their praises elsewhere. Yet she would not yield. "I am married to my people," she declared, "and they are my children." Those words, spoken with pride, also revealed a wound, the price of ruling alone. For 45 years, she held England steady between faiths and empires. She built a navy, inspired a cultural renaissance, and turned a small island into a global power. But behind the triumphs lay the toll of solitude. The child who once learned to survive by silence now commanded a realm where no one dared speak to her as a friend. The legend of Elizabeth was forged in brilliance, but sustained by sacrifice. Her crown gave her immortality, yet stole her humanity. And so it is said that each time she conquered fear, it demanded a piece of her soul in return. For every victory she claimed, a part of her heart quietly died. Behind the glittering crown, there was a woman torn between desire and duty. Of all the secrets that haunted Elizabeth's reign, none was more whispered about than her bond with Robert Dudley, the childhood companion who became her greatest comfort and perhaps her greatest danger. They had grown up together in the unpredictable court of Henry VIII, both marked by scandal and survival. When Elizabeth became queen, Dudley was by her side within days. Named Master of the Horse, a position that allowed him constant presence at her side. To the court, it was impossible not to notice the affection between them. She called him "my eyes," and in her letters, she referred to him with a warmth never shown to anyone else. Their laughter echoed through the corridors of Whitehall, Their glances lingered too long, and their closeness ignited gossip across Europe. But love in a palace is never just love, it is power in disguise. When Amy Robsart, Dudley's wife, was found dead at the bottom of a staircase in 1560, the rumor spread like wildfire. Had he killed her to be with the Queen? The coroner ruled it an accident, yet whispers said otherwise. Ambassadors wrote home that Her Majesty's reputation is in peril. Elizabeth's response was cold and public. She distanced herself immediately, refusing to see Dudley for months. But in private letters, her restraint trembled with emotion. "I do not forget the man I have known longest," she wrote, "but I must remember I am married to my realm." Her words reveal the cruel truth of her life. She loved as a woman, but ruled as a sovereign. That contradiction became the essence of her reign. Every time she allowed her heart to lean toward intimacy, politics intervened. Dudley remained by her side for decades, yet always just beyond reach. When he remarried years later, Elizabeth flew into fury, banishing him from court. But when he died in 1588, only months after the triumph over Spain, she locked herself away, refusing food, weeping for days. The note he had sent her before his death, signed, "Your loving servant," was found years later, worn from her handling, labeled in her own handwriting as his last letter. Psychologists and historians alike have long debated why Elizabeth could not marry. Some saw it as calculation, keeping foreign powers guessing, maintaining her autonomy. Others saw something deeper fear. The execution of her mother had carved an image of love as a trap, marriage as a prelude to destruction. Every man who came close reminded her of what love had cost her family: power lost, lives taken, trust shattered. Her crown was her shield. Historian Anne Somerset wrote, but also her prison. The very vow that made her legendary, the Virgin Queen, was both her defense and her punishment. But the loneliness of her heart was mirrored on the stage of politics. Across the border, another queen lived the life Elizabeth never could marry. Queen of Scots. Mary was everything Elizabeth was not: openly romantic, impulsive, and guided by passion rather than caution. She had beauty, youth, and heirs, three things Elizabeth had lost or refused. Yet their destinies were bound by fate. To Catholics, Mary was the rightful Queen of England, a living threat to Elizabeth's throne. Still, for years, Elizabeth hesitated to destroy her. "We are cousins," she once said, "and we are both queens in a man's world." But sympathy could not outweigh survival. When Mary fled Scotland and sought refuge in England, Elizabeth faced the dilemma she had always feared to act as a woman or as a ruler. For 19 years, Mary lived under house arrest, writing letters, plotting escapes, and becoming the focus of rebellion. In 1586, the Babington Plot, a plan to assassinate Elizabeth and place Mary on the throne, was uncovered. The evidence was undeniable. Mary's own handwriting sealed her fate. Yet Elizabeth delayed for weeks, unable to sign the death warrant. Her advisors pressed her. Parliament demanded action, and the people waited. Finally, on February 1st, 1587, she took the quill and signed. Her hand trembled. Her eyes, witnesses said, were full of sorrow. When the news of Mary's execution reached her, Elizabeth locked herself in her chamber and wept. "She has killed her own mirror," one courtier wrote. And indeed, Mary was the reflection Elizabeth had long avoided, the queen who followed her heart and paid for it with her life. In destroying Mary, Elizabeth had destroyed the last remnant of her own humanity. Historian John Guy observed, "The tragedy of Elizabeth was not her power, but her isolation. She could not trust love, and she could not forgive herself for it. Through every victory, she had worn a mask. It was the mask of the monarch, the symbol of strength and chastity that Europe came to revere. Behind it, however, was a woman constantly at war with herself between tenderness and control, mercy and necessity." Historian David Starkey once remarked, "Elizabeth's greatest strength was her mask, and her greatest tragedy was that she could never take it off. That mask protected her kingdom, but also buried her soul beneath layers of ceremony and fear. In her final years, that mask began to crack. Dudley was gone, her loyal counselors dead, and even the music of her court seemed to fade. Her ladies described her pacing the halls at night, whispering to herself, staring at the portraits of her youth. She touched her jewels and sighed, as though remembering all the things she had traded for them. "I am but a shadow," she said once, "a picture of what I was." Thus, beneath the glory of her reign lay a simple, unspoken truth. Elizabeth's life was not one of indulgence, but of denial. She chose the throne over love, the nation over self, and in doing so became eternal, but profoundly alone. Her reign was a masterpiece of survival, yet the woman beneath it remained a mystery even to herself. The crown had given her immortality, but demanded her humanity in return. when the noise of her victories faded and the cannons of the Armada grew silent, Elizabeth was left to face the quiet echo of her own creation. She had given England stability, identity, and pride, yet she had also built a throne so high that no one could reach her. History remembers her reign as the Golden Age, a time when England rose from chaos to confidence, when art, trade, and spirit flourished under the shadow of her crown. But behind that golden light lay the shadow of its maker. Elizabeth's first and greatest legacy was the birth of a national faith. By establishing the Church of England as independent from Rome, she ended decades of violent oscillation between Catholicism and Protestantism. Her religious settlement of 1559 was an act of political genius vague enough to appease both sides, firm enough to preserve her authority. She did not seek purity. She sought peace. The monarch became the supreme governor of the church, not its head, a subtle distinction that calmed those uneasy about divine hierarchy. This balance of pragmatism over passion became the cornerstone of the English state, surviving long after her death, economically and politically. Elizabeth's reign marked the beginning of England's transformation into a global power. She supported the first voyages of Francis Drake and Walter Raleigh, laid the foundation for colonies abroad, and turned naval exploration into national identity. The seeds of empire were sown not through conquest, but through ambition, an ambition she ignited. And at home, she cultivated an image of unity that transcended gender. The Virgin Queen became the mother of the nation, a symbol of England itself. Culturally, her court bloomed into one of the most dazzling in European history. It was the age of Shakespeare, Marlowe, and Spenser writers who captured both the majesty and melancholy of her reign. Playhouses filled London streets. Music and poetry flourished, and England's language found its soul. The irony was that while Elizabeth inspired countless portrayals of love and tragedy, she herself lived both, but could never truly play the role of the beloved. Yet every light casts its shadow. Behind the brilliance of her rule was a realm of fear and control. Her intelligence network, built by Francis Walsingham, was one of the most extensive in Europe. Spies watched every whisper. Letters were intercepted, secrets punished. To preserve her image, Elizabeth created what some historians call the theater of monarchy, a daily performance of ritual, costume, and distance. She turned politics into art, and art into protection. Every step, every gesture, every glance of hers was calculated to remind those around her that she was not merely human. She made herself sacred, wrote historian Alison Weir, so that none could dare to touch her. This aura of divinity brought loyalty, but it also bred fear. Ministers trembled before her moods. Courtiers lived for her favor, and even her closest allies knew the danger of speaking too freely. The woman who once ruled by listening had now become surrounded by silence, the silence of obedience. The court adored her. The people worshipped her, but no one dared to love her. In the end, she was a monarch who commanded devotion, but not affection. Historian John Guy once wrote, "Power demands a solitude few can survive, and Elizabeth survived longer than most." The question remains, was her coldness strategy or instinct? Some say she was a master manipulator, wielding restraint as a weapon. Others see in her the scars of a lifetime, a woman who had learned again and again that trust was fatal. Every betrayal of her youth, every political storm, every lonely night reinforced the lesson that love was weakness. So she built walls of ritual and intellect around her heart and called it strength. Yet within that solitude lay her paradox. Elizabeth became the first modern monarch, a woman who ruled not as a wife or mother, but as herself. She redefined what it meant to wield authority in a world that denied women power. She used the tools of perception, charm, and patience to outthink men who sought to control her. To the modern eye, she stands as a feminist icon, but to her own age, she was a mystery. A queen who claimed chastity, yet ruled with passion, who inspired loyalty, yet trusted no one. Her triumph was her tragedy. She proved that a woman could rule as a man, but only by sacrificing everything that made her human. In her final years, that sacrifice showed on her face. The court called her Gloriana, yet beneath the wear and jewels, the woman had grown frail. Her teeth blackened, her hands trembled, her mind wandered to ghosts of the past. She forbade mirrors in her chambers, unable to face the reflection of time. At ceremonies, she still appeared in dazzling gowns, painted white with lead and adorned with pearls, the eternal image of purity. But those who looked closely saw the sadness behind the mask. She walks like one already departed. A courtier whispered, her last public appearance was both majestic and haunting, draped in gold and silver. She sat upon her throne, unmoving, her eyes distant, staring beyond her subjects, beyond her kingdom, perhaps beyond life itself. The crowd roared in devotion, yet she seemed deaf to it, lost in some private reckoning. It was the image of a queen who had conquered the world, but not herself. Elizabeth, I left behind an empire in embryo, a language reborn, and a legend that endures 5 centuries later. But she also left behind the eternal warning of her life that power without love is victory without joy. Her crown had given her immortality, but demanded her humanity in return. And in the end, as the music faded and her image turned to dust, her eyes still gazed into the void, not in fear, but in quiet acceptance of what she had always known, that every throne, no matter how gilded, is built upon a lonely heart. The candlelight flickers against the cold surface of a mirror. In it, the face of Elizabeth stares back powdered white, lips trembling, eyes hollow, yet still defiant. The cracks in the paint no longer hide the truth. Beneath the mask of majesty lies the frail outline of a woman who has spent a lifetime pretending to be more than human. Each line, each wrinkle, each flake of white lead is a story of sacrifice, fear, and a love too vast to contain. As she sits alone in her chamber, surrounded by silence and fading portraits, she whispers the words that history would remember. I have loved England too much. It is both confession and epitaph, the voice of a ruler who gave everything she had to the one thing that could never love her back. She had sacrificed affection for allegiance, tenderness for control, and in doing so, she had built a kingdom strong enough to outlive her. But what remained of the woman beneath the crown, the legacy of her reign, stretches far beyond her lifetime. She turned a divided island into a confident nation, inspired a language that would shape the world, and laid the foundation for an empire that would span centuries. The age of Elizabeth was not only an era of expansion, it was an awakening. Shakespeare gave words to her people's soul. Explorers gave wings to their ambition. And under her, the English identity was born. Yet it all came at the cost of her solitude. The Virgin Queen became the eternal paradox, worshipped by millions, yet untouched by anyone. History has always struggled to define her. Was she the savior who preserved her realm, or the sinner who ruled through manipulation and fear? A visionary who transcended her time, or a lonely woman imprisoned by her own legend. Perhaps she was all of these things, and that is why she endures. Because in her, we see the reflection of every soul that has ever traded love for purpose, or peace for greatness. And so the question lingers: was she a savior or a ghost behind the crown? And if power demanded everything, your heart, your freedom, your name, would you have done differently? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. If this story moved you, remember to like, subscribe, and join us again as we unveil the hidden truths of history.